Welcome to this amazing episode of GLI Live. I am so excited to bring this to you today. For those of you who are, this is your first time with us on GLI Live, I am Donna, the founder and CEO of the Global Liver Insitute, and I have the privilege of being your host. The Global Liver Insitute is a patient-driven advocacy organization operating in the US and Europe. And as our response to this global pandemic of COVID-19, we've set up this forum where we could share information and expertise, at first just to patients with liver disease or autoimmune conditions, but we are so grateful for the feedback that it has become so much more to so many more. And so today, in a reflection of that, our episode is entitled GLI Live, Health Talk with Performers from the Cast of Hamilton. And yes, that Hamilton. I will have no further delays, and I will attempt to integrate some of the many questions that we've gotten from our viewers into the time that we have today. But our guests are Tyler McKenzie and Carleigh Beall, who were at the original Broadway cast. Hello, and let me stop talking for a moment and you can say hello to our viewers.
Hi guys, I guess I'll go first. I'm Carleigh Beall. I was in the original cast of Hamilton on Broadway. I did the show off-Broadway at the Public Theater before that and was just recently in the Hamilton film on Disney+. I was one of the dancers in the ensemble and I understudied Eliza, Alexander Hamilton's wife, as you probably all know.
Hey friends, I'm Tyler McKenzie. I joined the company on Broadway in 2017, August 2017, and then I also opened the Philip Company, which is one of many now companies of Hamilton. It is a huge corporation. It is a brand. Altogether 2 years doing the show. I was man 3 and man 4, George Eaker, and a dancer in the ensemble as well.
That's fantastic. I might actually start with a question that we got from one of our viewers just on that point about the companies. One of our viewers has said, who is a theater buff and a Peabody graduate whom I know and love, a high soprano, asked, she has seen socially distant performances of things like Godspell, and was wondering if if there's anything planned like that for Hamilton, because of course millions have enjoyed it on Disney+, and we are very grateful for that. But is there a chance that we might be able to see it in a safe, socially distant way live in the future?
Honestly, I haven't heard of anything. I think once it's safe to bring Broadway back and bring the national tours back and everything, and have people in a space like a theater that holds on tour, especially thousands of people in one space, then they will bring it back when it is safe to do so. But unfortunately, Disney Plus is what you got right now.
Which is
it is fantastic. And I know everybody, so many of us, even those who had the privilege of seeing it live on Broadway, still we're queuing up 4th of July for it. But this is about health talk, so let me try not to digress too much. So I do want to understand, first, because I'm so grateful that you all are spending your time with us today. But how have you been impacted by coronavirus? How have performers been impacted? Maybe Tyler, you can go first.
Yeah, I was when it hit, and it hit hard, I was not in New York City. I was doing a show called Memphis in North Carolina Theater. And we were about a week into rehearsals. We finished the show. We were on time and everything. It's always good when you're rehearsing a show and you're like ahead of schedule. And we were sent home. So I flew back. I was told that the show would be canceled or postponed. And I flew back here to my apartment in South Harlem, New York City. And that was in March, and I've been here ever since. So because we are, like Carleigh, we are in the union, there are lots of really incredible ways that they look after us. So because I lost 3 or 4 weeks of work, the union made sure that we were still paid for the rest of the work that we were supposed to have done, which is awesome. Not everyone can say that has that story, if they were working or not working. How I've been affected is I've been teaching a lot more because it kept me out of my fields, and I started virtual teaching as much as I could, giving back to the community, making sure other young artists feel heard and seen and can continue to train when they are not able to go to their studios or go take voice lessons or take acting classes. So that is how I've been affected. I've been affected in a positive way, seeing the darkness that's outside as well, but also knowing that I have a position to really give back in this time, and not give back because I have a million auditions or shows that I have to, hold myself accountable
to be the light through this time. Carleigh?
Yeah, I mean, it's been somewhat similar. I was not doing a show at the time that COVID hit. I was in New York though, and I left very quickly. It started to get pretty bad there, so I got out of there and I went to stay with a friend in Texas, which at the time Texas was like, nothing bad was happening in Texas. That has since changed, as we know. But, it's been very similar. I have been teaching a lot more, and it is about giving back, and it is about, for us, a way to kind of still keep some money coming in a little bit, and, giving hope to those kids that are trying to break into the business of performing, that now this hit and everything is shut down and they're like, oh no, am I ever going to have that chance again? So that's that I think has been very important in, the message that I've been giving throughout this time.
Well, we thank you for that. And, as you know, and how we got connected was that GLI's own social media manager and a producer is a young actress of stage and screen. And part of her pivot has been working with this nonprofit and supporting our work. And so it's been really so mutually satisfying. I'm in denial about someday I may have to, send her back to the boards, but
it's good. She's so good.
But for now, we enjoy and value having her here. But if I could hire every actor and actress, I would do that. But we're gonna find other ways that we can support each other, including this show today. So the main question that that we've been discussing and I've been fascinated about, and everybody knows through my patient journey that my body has endured a lot, but I also as a dancer, I appreciate that the endurance and strength that it takes to get through 8 shows a week, to do a Broadway show or a traveling company show is an incredible physical and mental feat, but we'll get to that part in a moment. So walk us through how you prepare for shows, sustain just during and through the week, and then and also I understand there's sort of a come down period. So maybe Carleigh, go first. There's this time, how do you physically do this?
I mean, it's not without a lot of work, right? I mean, everybody usually gets to the theater earlier than call time. Call time is typically a half an hour before the show starts. People usually get there at least an hour before, in my experience, the men and the women, especially for this show. I mean, typically in other shows, the women will get there significantly earlier because they have to put the makeup on and the wigs and all the things. But this show is so physically demanding that people get there and they have, their warm-ups, whatever that may be. If that's a physical warm-up, a vocal warm-up, probably both in this show. Because, although the ensemble is dancing and lifting set pieces lifting each other, we're also singing for the gods. So I mean, it's physical and it's vocal warm up. And it's also just, I like to take my time to get ready so that I'm not in a place of like, you know, craziness when the show starts. So I can kind of approach it in a calm, cool, collected way. And then, yeah, after the show is over, typically, you know, for doing a show on Broadway, you get to just go home. But for some people, that can take an hour commute to get home, depending on where you live. So then you get home and you're still kind of high off of the endorphins that, you know, you've gotten from working out for the last 3 hours. And it takes a long time, couple hours at least, to kind of come down from that before you can go to sleep. So most people won't go to bed until 1, 2 in the morning, and then we sleep in because we need our rest as well.
Absolutely. My husband, sorry, Tyler, to interrupt, but my husband still has a tiny grudge against his I still refer to his baby brother, even though he's older than I am, who was in the Fantastics, and he played the boy, and you know, he lived that show lifestyle. And so my husband was in medical school at the time in the Bronx, and was, let his baby brother stay with him. And so he would come in, at all hours of the morning and explain to this, sleepy medical, resident how hard life was, as a dancer. And they were each in their own way, but in such very different ways.
Yes.
So Tyler, tell us, what your physical, prep looks like, and what you do to also center yourself and stay well in your job.
Yeah, Carleigh's right. And unlike a lot of shows, Hamilton is not tracked. So I've been in shows on Broadway that if Carleigh and I didn't want to sing to our fullest moment, there's still tracked ensemble voices that kind of fill in the blanks, but that is not the case with Hamilton. So we are very much, it is so vulnerable, it is so transparent, we have to show up or we get spoken to, because they can hear everything. What I learned with Hamilton was that my business throughout the day completely affected what I brought into how ready I was for the show. And it goes both ways. I think if I started doing physical activity, like taking a class, whether it be yoga or cycle or something during the day, so that I didn't bring too much to the show. Because I think there is, and Carleigh, I'd love to hear your thoughts, I think there is a moment where you're kind of giving too much than it actually needs. There is a sense of control that comes with the movement and the show itself, that if you spent your whole day not doing anything, that you would blow out and you wouldn't match the tone. Carleigh, what do you think? What do you think about that?
I agree. I completely agree. Also, you have the choreographer, Andy Blankenbuehler, who's always saying, do less, do less, do less. And we would look at him and be like, what? But don't it's Hamilton. Come on, we want to hit it, And first of all, the thing is you'll just tire yourself out. There's no way you can sustain going full throttle for 8 shows a week on that show. And, there is something about just, I don't know, approaching it from, like I said, from a calm place. You're gonna perform better with more control and with a little more sense of calm.
I think that's fantastic. I think we can all use some of that in whatever job that we do.
Yeah.
As this pandemic, goes on, and it seems a sort of endless loop of things. But one of the things that did strike me about Hamilton, amongst the many, but seeing it live, the choreography, the physicality, the sort of constant movement of people in and out, and it is why I do hope people will see it live again someday, no matter how many times we enjoy it on Disney, because the intricacies of the people coming up, the characters, the voices, but how well every cast member, and it seemed to me like a relatively small cast to produce so much and so many stories, so many different diverse voices and perspectives, but you know, and the stage, you know, being utilized in, you know, every level and layer, but how you were all in constant motion, moving in and out, was just, you know, miraculous to me. And so I know one of the questions we had gotten before was, how do you even learn that choreography, and what did that process look like?
Well, yeah, Tyler, like you, like we've had two very different experiences coming into the show. So Tyler, you go ahead, and then.
Okay. My first time learning the show, I was a replacement. So that means that there is a dance captain and you, and that's it. And you don't get the full company, even though it is small, you don't get the full company until maybe 3 or 4 weeks in, which is wild. So there's a lot of like, making sure you're meditating, making sure you're going into the studio that is about 3 hours early to just like sit in the space and call it your own, because it can get you can get a sense of imposter syndrome learning something that someone else created, that Carleigh's company created. And then you just jump over that leap, and then all of a sudden you're on the stage and you're doing it 8 times a week, and you're like, oh wow, I didn't think this would happen. And then with the Philip company, it was a brand new moment. So we get to be in a huge space in New 42, which is in Manhattan, and there is a turntable put on the floor, and we go from beginning to end with that quality of people being changed around as far as tracks, because some people do features differently and all that stuff. So if someone had the means to see Broadway, Chicago, Philip company, Eliza company, all that stuff, you would notice little differences, because the tracking is different from whoever originated the tracking, based on our groove, our light that we put into this company. And then of course Carleigh's experience is very, very different.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you talk about it, Tyler, also because there's universal swings, which are people that go between all the different companies, and God bless them, because to know the differences between each of the companies is, I just don't even know how they do it. Anyway, but when I was learning the show, so like I said, I did off-Broadway at the Public Theater, and I also did a 4-week workshop even before that, so back in 2014. And so we're coming in every day, and choreography is changing every day. Lyrics are changing every day. Harmonies are changing every day. And I remember during that 4-week workshop that I think I cried almost every single day that I left, because I was so stressed and so overwhelmed by all of the information coming every day. And we were just trying to like stay afloat. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was the hardest experience I've ever had as a performer, but obviously also the most incredible. And then when we finally got past, you know, Lynn figuring everything out, all of the material out, and we started to set it for the stage, we did it in a space where we didn't have a turntable. Every company that has gone up since the Broadway company has had a turntable in the rehearsal space, and we did not have that. So it was a lot of, you know, Andy Blankenbuehler, our choreographer, would say, okay, Carleigh, so in this room, you are going to start over there and you're going to end up over here. But when we get on stage, you're actually going to start here and it's going to carry you and you'll end up here. I mean, you know what I mean? And that was there's 50 songs in the show. So it was so much information. And I remember all of us just kind of looking at each other like, do you know what's happening? No. Okay, great. I don't either. Great. And it was just kind of like, I don't know. Here we go. So it was hard. It was so hard, but you know, you figure it out after time.
You figured it all out across. And now you have justification to tell my husband I need to see it in different cities and things like that. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that. Do you have a favorite scene or a favorite song of the 50?
Help us satisfy.
Oh yeah.
And I'll try not into it. That'll be my throw for the day.
I just love partnering. I love partnering. And also the rewind section is just so beautifully like you guys did that. It was just so beautiful, and just being a part of it is so magical. You can feel it in the Richard Rogers space, but also you can feel it in, say, Fort Lauderdale, where there's like 5 tiers of balconies and there's millions of people watching it, and you just feel them feel it, and it is still my favorite. So my favorite. A little bit of like an inside information, like, because it's a little bit of this cool rewind moment in the sound. So if Carleigh goes on for Eliza, they have to switch her voice into it because it can't not be Carleigh saying helpless in that little part. So there's a little inside information for you for as far as sound goes. It's so like, oh, it's so intricate.
Yeah. It is. I mean, I think that is one of the most brilliant sections. I mean, the whole show is brilliant, right? But that is one of the most brilliant in the way it was written, in the way it was staged and choreographed. It's stunning. I remember the first time I saw it, because doing it for so long, you don't know what's happening around you, but then you sit out and watch it and you're like, oh, wow. But I would say one of my favorite moments was, wait for it, honestly. I got to stand all the way upstage and lean against that piece, and just, it was in the show for me, but I also got to watch Leslie Odom Jr. sing that song 8 times a week. So I was kind of like, this is it for me. That was my favorite.
That's fantastic. You know, as my team can certainly testify, I'm never satisfied. And so I mean, most likely to sing in a team meeting. Although I'm often known to say, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So shows are really hard on your bodies. Have you ever had sort of a moment as a patient, either, because of, this show or other shows, or just, in your life, that you, a health experience that you feel comfortable, sharing with us?
Oh, for sure. For me, it was Help the Satisfied, of course, my favorite number, as well as the number that changed it all. I think it was in summer of 2019. We were playing in Dallas. I'd already been doing the show for a pretty long time, going from city to city, and starting in New York. And during Help Us Satisfied, we do this lift that's called a bucket lift. And doing it, you do it, and Carleigh can say this as well, the thing about the show is that you're doing it the same side every single night, and your body is not supposed to get used to doing something the same way every single night. You should also, if we could reverse it, it would be so hard. Like, that would be almost the more healthy way to do it, because you should be doing it the other side. And I lifted up, I think it was a swing. It was in the morning. We had another show to go that night. And I lifted her up, and my back just like, and it really, it didn't, nothing crazy, but it definitely spasmed. I had to, as my track, I had to lift her, put her down, and as well as run off the opposite side of the stage, literally, like, the audience is here and we're in the front. And I had to call out of the show. The beauty, though, is as soon as I dramatically fell to the floor backstage, stage manager, I know, stage manager calls the swing, so-and-so, please come to the stage. Their costumes are ready, blah, 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 blah. The number wasn't done yet, and there was already someone who took my place. That is how, like, the machine, they're ready. They are ready. So this leads me to my education and making sure I educate how important understudy work and swing work and standby work is, because I think there's young artists have this thing of, like, being in the spotlight and being a principal and being a star, and that's the only course of work there is, but they're selling themselves short and ridding themselves of the opportunity of, one, making a hell of a lot of money, and two, like, being this superhero of and having the longevity. It's just incredible. So yes, I had a pretty bad back injury. My decision to put in my 12-week notice that I would not continue with the show after 12 weeks came from that, because I realized, cool, your body needs a rest. And the Broadway is great, but we only get one day off unless we take vacation time. Even that's not like enough. And we have like 4 personal days, I think it is. Look, Carleigh's shaking her, and it's like, it's so wild. Like 9 to 6, they have all weekend, you know what I mean? But our weekend is usually, depending on the season, is usually our busiest. We have 2 shows, right, Saturdays and Sundays. And that's in itself. Who decided that? But that was I made my decision to say, cool, your body is important. You need to chill out. So my back injury, that's when
it's important. You're important. And, you know, patients, and as somebody who has lived for, you know, over 30 years now with, you know, 1 and now multiple chronic illnesses, but still wants to achieve things. And it's something I've had to sort of remind myself that you only have this one life, although mine was sort of rescued rather dramatically 7 days before I was supposed to you know, to die, and I got a transplant. But you know, it's a long view. It's a long game. I have to think about, you know, sustaining, and now I have to think about, you know, leading and being there for other people. And so, you know, you bring a great wisdom to this approach, and now you're teaching, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Now
I'm teaching.
Fantastic. So, Carleigh, your life as a patient, your life with health and wellness adventures.
Okay, I've had 2 injuries that I'm still dealing with today, both from Hamilton. And I mean, one was a proper injury, shoulder injury. Everybody had shoulder injuries in my company. But I'm going to talk to you about an issue that I had with my voice, because I think that's the best fit for what we're talking about today. I got a very severe sinus infection, probably, let's see, 4 or 5 months before I left the show. And I still had a voice, but I was very, very stuffy. So I was going, I went and saw the ENT. They gave me, you know, B12 shot. She cleared the mucus out, whatever, but I still had a very severe sinus infection. And I go through 2 rounds of antibiotics to get over it, but I was still doing the show because as Tyler said, we only get so many personal days, so many sick days, all of that. So I kept going and doing the show. And now the track that I had was singing the soprano line, and Alex Lacamoire, who's a musical genius, wanted everything to be belted, which, I mean, it makes sense, but it is high and it is belted. So I ended up singing the show 8 shows a week with the sinus infection. And ever since then, I have had vocal issues ever since. So it has been the long game for me. I have taken multiple vocal lessons with different teachers to try to figure out what are these bad habits that I have formed throughout this time, trying to figure out how to negotiate around all the mucus and all of the crap that was going on during that time. And it's been really hard. It's been really hard for me. And now my confidence in singing has also deteriorated. And it's a mind game. It's, like I said, you going into lessons all the time. So it's something that I still deal with today, but it's just like you were saying, Donna, you know, you push through, you know, we figure it out, we push through. It's hard for a while, and even sometimes it's still hard after that, you know, and we push through and you just figure it out. And I've been able to work since then on other shows, and I'm grateful, but it is still an issue, unfortunately.
We thank you for it. You know, I for some reason the movie Pitch Perfect came to mind for me when one of the kids had a nodule removed, and all of a sudden she became a bass, and then the group changed its whole dynamics because she had this whole new asset and new facet that she didn't have before. And so it was at first a loss, but then it was reframed. think through, as I have approached almost 26 years post transplant, and still deal with several competing conditions that do take a toll. I do realize that there are some things about sort of consistency or being there that I would love to be, but I'm not sort of allowed that. But I recognize I work really fast, and I work really intensely, and so I thought, how can I structure systems to build on my strengths and to read the situation, and there were a number of years where I didn't talk about the fact that I was a patient or had this transformative experience, and I was in a situation where somebody had asked me to speak about it, and oh my gosh, they asked me to come on after Peter Gruber and he brought the Batman suit. I'm like, really? I'm supposed to follow the Batman suit? The Batman suit, like the whole, and so but what I learned from there, what I took away was that my story gave me power. People, came for the story, but stayed for the substance of what I wanted to, change or move or have them do. And so it reframed my illness for me. It reframed my condition and my experience, what I had gone through. And I recognized, new gears and perhaps new superpowers in how I, how I was constituted moving forward. I wasn't the same as I was before, but maybe in this difference, I could even be better. And so I hope that in your struggles that you find ways to, find new gears and new, even higher opportunities, although I can't imagine what's higher than Hamilton, but imagine that there was something even better and higher than Hamilton. And I hope that you find them and that, your voice continues to be shared with the world in that way.
Thank you.
So how can we support performers, moving forward? What will the arts look like, post COVID-19, and how can we all in this global community and the Global Liver Institute community and everybody who watches this episode, how can we support you and your fellow actors and singers and dancers? We want to know, and we'll put things in the show notes, and we want to be part of your community and support team as well. Part of the Hamilton family.
I think what I've learned, especially hearing Carleigh's story, is simply telling the stories. I think people look at like Carleigh and I as like, and all performers, like our Instagrams and stuff like that, and there's this celebratorial type moment, and they don't see what, like, some of the things that we do struggle with or battle, or some of our challenges that we do like end up being winners. And I think sharing these stories someone's going to hear about a back injury or a vocal injury, and who's probably going through it and feeling very alone because they don't think it happens with the people who are in the biggest show in the world. You know what I mean? But we are human too. So I think sharing our stories only allows young performers to see us as humans and know that, cool, there's going to be challenges. This is not just glitz and glam. It's not all about the opening night parties and all that stuff. And there is weight and challenge to what we're doing. Right now, I have a lot of different projects that I'm trying to maintain that will break down biases in the theater community, whether it be racial, whether it be size, whether it be tokenism. So I produce a podcast titled The Fourth Wall Podcast. And I have two students who are from a small school in North Carolina, one white, one black, both female, and they have conversations with people in our industry about stories that will humanize the actor and let young actors and just our community see that there are stories to be told that isn't all about booking and wearing fierce dresses to a party and being in the best show in the world. There are there are things that need to be discussed, and stories that need to be told, and changes that need to be made. And I've had such a brilliant time holding space for that conversation, because someone needs to hear it. Many people need to hear it. Don't feel alone and don't feel other because they're not in Hamilton. You know what I mean? There's so much more in the theater community than this huge, incredible success that is Hamilton, but there are a lot of other stories that are just as impactful, and it starts with the actors themselves. We don't always get the chance to tell our own story because we're telling so many other people's stories as dancers or singers. So to hold space is very important to me at this time.
I think that's fantastic. And I'm so grateful to be able to give you this space to hold for today. Carleigh, how can we support you?
I mean, I just want to talk about the Actors Fund for just a second. I think the Actors Fund has been super important and helpful for a lot of performers throughout this time. I think that's one of the easiest ways that people can help performers out. Just go on their website. It's actorsfund.org. You can donate there. It's been helping a lot of people pay their rent and buy groceries and things of that nature. I mean, most performers are collecting unemployment, right now, and without the stimulus checks currently, so it's hard. And Broadway and tours and all that are not coming back until, as of right now, January. And I mean, I personally don't even think it will be that soon. I think more like spring, but the Actors Fund is incredible with helping people. So that is the way, first and foremost, right now, that I think people can be helpful to actors and performers, but also just to encourage people, when it is safe to do so, to get out there and find a way to see live theater. When it comes back, and when you feel safe enough to do so, please get out and support live theater, because I just think the arts are so important. I think we all do, I mean, there was a woman that reached out to me the other day. We're doing a bunch of Hamilton fundraisers. I'm not sure if you guys have seen, to benefit a lot of organizations supporting Black Lives Matter. And this woman reached out to me, and she just said, I don't know how to get my kids involved in the arts. How can I get them to be more interested? We don't have the funds and all these things to get these programs for these kids. And it made me sad that they didn't have the money to put out for these kids, for these programs. So I just think supporting the arts in general, in any way that you can, is huge.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think any of us would be getting through this pandemic with any sense of sanity without being able to access the arts, whether they are, streaming from pictures from paintings from museums, or the online dance classes, or Hamilton on Disney Plus. And so there must be a robust, vibrant arts community there and waiting for us, when we are all, allowed to go out and enjoy them. And that means we have to support you all through this time. And so I am glad to lend this platform and my voice in this efforts, to that. So I thank you so much for your time today. You're welcome back anytime, certainly. You have just made GLI Live or virtual, but live for now, so special today. And so I thank you to everybody who has watched this. I thank you to all of our sponsors and supporters. You will find this episode and more information, including links to the Actors Fund, in the show notes, on Global Liver Institute on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, on our website, and the YouTube channel. So until next time, thank you.